Hi, this is Craig. I get a lot of requests for different products, and by far the biggest request I get is from people who want to find an object. And I'm not talking about which hand or maybe tracking an object that gets moved or something like that. I'm talking about finding an object in an open field, or finding an object that's been hidden in a house, or maybe even amongst 50 or 100 people. We're talking about contact mind reading, and this has been something that's been requested of me for many years, and something I've spent an enormous amount of time looking at, developing. I could show you boxes of prototypes and things like that that have been developed over the years, but finally we have something that I'm really proud of called ProFound. Let me show you what you get with ProFound. First of all, you get one device that is actually disguised as a money clip. It's very uniquely designed to be as small as possible, yet have really good range to it. It looks and feels just like a money clip. It's made of leather. It's nothing that your spectator is going to be able to pull apart. And the great thing about it is it's always on. Once the battery's inside of it, you change the batteries maybe once every 6 to 9 months, and you don't have to switch it on before you use it. It's always ready to go. That's one of the clips. As a bonus, you're going to get a second tracking tag. So this is, you'll see on the unit itself that you can select between two different tags that you want to find. This one's a little bit smaller, and it's something that you can take and put into another object, like maybe you want to put it in an evidence bag or a money bag, maybe in some sort of a small purse or any other kind of object that you can fit this into. It's going to allow you to track and find this. This is going to be your second tag. Next, you're going to get a junction box. We'll get into what this is used for later. You're going to get a specialized receiver and an armband. The reason I'm including it like this is because it works, I find it works much better strapped to the arm, so I'm providing you the armband, and this is something you're probably going to have sleeves on when you use it anyways. So you don't have to use the armband, but you do need to use our special receiver. It's not compatible with your Pro Mystic receiver. This has got some special features in it. And then, of course, you are going to get the actual ProFound unit itself, and this is basically your directional unit that you use to point toward things, and you'll be able to determine where your object is based on where you are pointing. So this is the ProFound unit. You're also going to have a earpiece. If you choose to use this, you can use the receiver for vibrations, or you can use the earpiece. You can also use both simultaneously, and you're going to get an inductive loop setup for the earpiece. I've tested a bunch of different earpieces, the ones that rest, the little magnets that rest against your eardrum. I've tested the Phonak ones that are much larger. This one is actually fairly inexpensive, and it works quite well, and it's very well hidden in the ear. So for this application, I think that this is really the best earpiece that you can use. But it does come with an audio jack in the back that allows you to use earpieces. So this is something that you might want to use, or the vibration. But we're going to show you actually how to use this thing in just a minute. In a minute, we're going to get into how to use ProFound, but I first want to tell you that it's going to take some practice. You don't want to get this and try to put this in your show tomorrow or the next day. You really do need to practice with this thing. It's not as simple as doing real die, where if you can count to 6, you can perform real die. With this kit, it's an analog experience, and then with the pressure of being on stage or in a parlor situation and you're attempting to find something, that added pressure makes it more difficult. And sometimes even if you hide an object yourself, you think you're finding it, it's much better to have somebody else hide the object for you than you go about attempting to find it. And that makes it more realistic to what you're going to experience when you go on stage. I've used it in my live performances. I've used it even betting money before, and I haven't failed yet. So it does work very well, but I've been using this and this technology for quite some time. So make sure that you put in enough time and effort into practicing this before you actually use it in your show. Okay, the first thing that you need to do is put together the tag that you're going to locate, and then put together the actual locator itself and your receiver. Your receiver is going to be wrapped, unlike this one. It's just like your ProMystic receiver. It'll take 2 batteries that you're going to install, which are the CR2032 batteries, and you install them just like you would a normal ProMystic receiver. So batteries go in with the plus side out toward the metal jacket. You put the 2 of them in, you turn this on, you get a single long buzz. Now, yours is going to look a little different from this. This is still a prototype unit, but this takes a 2016 battery, so it's a very thin battery. Again, the plus side goes to the out where you see the plus there. When you slide this in, you're going to see probably a flash of light here that actually flashed like that. Doesn't mean anything, don't worry about it. Once it's in, it's on. It stays on for the next 6 to 9 months, so you don't need to worry about that. You're going to slide it into the, we'll get a close-up of this, but you're going to slide it into the leather holder. Now, the circuit board is actually, I'm going to hold this out just a little bit. The circuit board you see is down here on the bottom. And on the clip, you'll see with the clip that there's a notched side, and it's actually going to slide into the unit behind. So now the circuit board is actually in front. The circuit board's not back here. The circuit board is in between the 2 clips up front. That's where the circuit board is. And you'll notice that this has got some nice spring to it, so you can easily slip a billet or some money into this thing. This is all ready to go. Lastly, we have our unit. This takes a single 2032 battery, goes right in the back. You'll see there's 2 switches here. On these 2 switches, just switch them both to the outside. And you'll see a little push button here as well. This is for turning the unit on and off, or waking it up basically, and this is the one battery that goes inside of there. So that battery is now installed. This guy is ready to go, and we will start showing you how to demo this. Okay, let's show the battery install. This is the one battery that's different. It's the 2016. It's the very thin battery. It goes inside of the clip here, and you'll see a light go on when you do that. Now, you'll notice on the clip that one side it might be a little flatter than the other side. It's okay, it's going to stretch either direction, but this simply slides down inside. And then you take your money clip, and you're going to notice a side that's kind of has a slight curve to it, and you're going to notice a thicker side. This thicker, longer side is the one that goes inside of the clip. Now, it's designed to go behind the actual electronics. So there's the electronics. So the electronics actually go inside there and actually protects the electronics quite a bit. So that's going to go behind. I'm going to press that inside there. I'm going to put this larger paddle behind there. I'm just going to grab from the ends. I'm just going to squeeze that together. If you want, you could use some double-sided tape inside there to prevent that from opening, but essentially the electronics are inside of that clip and they're well protected there, and they got a nice flat back. So it looks completely ungaffed, and this is strong. It's going to be able to handle, you know, a couple pieces of paper and a couple of bills. It's not designed to handle a lot of stuff, but it's going to handle some things. Now let's go ahead and put our receiver batteries in. These are the 2032s. We'll put those plus side up, just like regular. Now, my receiver, I have a piece of plastic here, and that's actually to give it more of a feel for a vibration for myself. So it's kind of like having a ball bearing on there. And this is the other 2032. This goes inside the locator, and again, there's the clasp, and there'll be a little plus marking here. And there's the plus on the battery, and you're going to want to install that plus side up, and that's going to slide right into that spot. And there's your 2 switches. This is the main power switch, and this is your tag selector. This tag is not assembled at this time, but there'll be a single 2016 battery that slides into there and turns the smaller tag on that allows you to put this into other objects. And again, this switch here will link either to this tag, or if it's switched the other direction, it will link over to this tag. So we can actually just give this a go real quick. That's on. We'll turn our main power switch on. We'll press and hold this for a second, release. 3 quick buzzes. It's attempting to connect right now. Once it connects, we're going to start getting some buzzing. There it is. And as we point toward it, we're getting much faster buzzing. As we point away, it gets much slower. Now we can turn the entire unit off by just flipping that off, and we can turn this off, and we're good to go. Let's go over the buttons. This is the on-off button. And on the back side here, this is the main power circuit, and this is the tag selector. So when this is on the 0, the main power circuit is off. And when this is on a 1, the main power circuit is on. So in order to use the device, you have to turn the main power circuit on, and then you will press and hold the on-off button for 1 second before you release. So if you just momentarily tap it, it's not going to turn on, but if you press and hold it and then you release, it will turn on. This other button over here, the switch, is the tag selector. So number 1 is the money clip tag, and number 2 is the smaller additional tag. So if you're going to be finding the money clip, you put it over here before you turn it on. And then if you want to find the smaller tag, you have it set to this setting before you turn it on, and that will find that. Sliding this back to a 0 turns off this unit completely. Keep in mind that this is a special ProMystic receiver. It's on a special frequency, and it's not going to connect to any of your other products, or if you have a special frequency, it's not going to connect to that. You can leave this on. It's not going to pick up any other signals. It only picks up signals from the locator. So you can leave this on if you want to. It's not going to interfere with you at all. And I don't really have plans. I mean, I could put this on the same frequency as your other items. I might look into that in the future, but it is a special receiver that you'll want to use. It has special timing in it. Okay, let's talk about the functions of this before we actually fire it up. This is the battery compartment on the top with the button here. On this side of the unit over here, this switch selector selects which tag, whether you're going to do the money clip or the smaller tag that you're going to find. So if you switch it to the outside, that's actually looking for the money clip. If you switch it to the inside, that's actually looking for this secondary clip. So we're going to put that to the outside right now. This is actually an on-off switch that when this is to the outside, it'll be marked with a 0. When this is to the outside, the entire unit's completely off. The battery is disconnected. When you turn this thing, click it to the inside, the unit is powered right now, but it's using very little power. But it's ready to go, but it's not on. Pushing this momentary button over here is what actually turns the button on, and this is what turns it, and then pushing that momentary button again turns it off. So this is the main power, like almost like a main breaker. And then this is your momentary switch. Now, this is very specifically designed. Believe me, I went through a lot of different designs with this. This is very specifically designed to go into the sleeve of your coat, or it can go into the sleeve of a shirt. That is super important. I want to tell you right now, you cannot do this. You cannot strap this to your arm. This directional antenna piece cannot be strapped to your arm. It will not work. You will not be able to find your object. So do not strap it to your arm. Don't strap it to the side of your head with a blindfold on. Don't strap it to your body. None of that. You can let it sit inside of your coat jacket, or if you want to, you can actually take something. I actually had like a parapad, like a pad of paper, and I put it inside there, and the parapad has a plastic spiral bound on the front of it. I cut the pages out, I stuck this thing inside of it. I could press that momentary on-off button to get it going, and I could set it inside the pad, and I could, walk around. You can maybe even put this into a wallet if you wanted to. It's made of leather, but that's about it. This needs to be free and open and not strapped to something where this is not going to work. So you need a couple of inches away. So like in a coat jacket, that's where this needs to be. Then we have our receiver. So now we're going to talk about the functions of turning this unit on. Like I said, we're going to find the clip here. This guy, we're going to need to use a lot more space, so we're going to be zooming out in a little bit. But this guy right here is always on. You don't need to worry about turning him on or off. He's ready to go. It can be in your pocket. It won't be damaged. So I'm going to turn my receiver on. There is our long buzz. I am going to turn the power, the main power breaker, onto the unit. We don't get any response now. Now, in order to turn this on, you need to press and hold this button for 1 second. Specifically designed when it's in your coat. You can find this switch through your sleeve or through your coat. It's not difficult to do, and when you click this, you can feel it clicking. And that's why that's designed this way. That's why it's under here. So you want this button. You don't want the button facing up because you're not going to be able to get to it very easily. You want that button facing down. When you turn this unit on, what it's going to do is it's going to attempt to connect to this unit. There's two-way communication going on. So when you turn this on, you're going to get 3 buzzes over here. That indicates to you that it's starting to connect. Sometimes it connects very quickly. Sometimes it takes a while to connect. So when I'm getting the person on stage and I'm giving them the unit and I'm asking them to go hide it in the audience, somewhere around there I press this button because my back is turned or I'm blindfolded. I press this button. That gives me 3 buzzes on the receiver. It attempts to connect. I'm going to do that now so that you can hear it. And then you're going to notice that this guy acts just like a directional antenna, but it's very directional. It's not just directional in 2 dimensions. Like let's say the clip is here. As you're pointing at the clip, it's going to buzz you faster and faster, and as you're pointing away, it's going to buzz you slower and slower. It's not going to tell you right or left. It's just going to be fast and slow because it doesn't know relevance of right or left. Just fast or slow. And if you're pointing here, even though you're exactly in this direction of the clip, this is a slow buzz, and this is a much faster buzz because now you're pointing at it. If I'm pointing down, this is a slow buzz. So it's pointing in all 3 dimensions, okay? So it's pointing elevation, it's pointing left, and it's pointing right. In all different elevations, this thing's working. We'll get into this in just a second. Okay, now there's a lot of other things about this thing that are very subtle that I'll explain a lot of it, but not right now. I just want to give you a general idea of how this thing works, and then we're going to get into all these other subtle ideas because I spent a lot of time on the algorithms. It's actually quite difficult to translate location into something that buzzes, and plus, you want to be able to interpret buzzing when you're 100 feet away. Like, what does it mean if you're 100 feet away or you're 3 feet away or you're 1 foot away from the object? Yes, this is faster buzzing, but it needs to know the difference between this and this so that if you have people here, here, you want to know exactly where this object is. That's a lot different. When you're 100 feet away, you also want to be able to get into a rough idea of where you need to start walking within like a 15 degrees, of geometry of where that tag is in a 360-degree circles. So you got to be able to feel that, but you also have to be able to feel it right here when you're next to the tag. So there's a lot of auto calibration and things like that going on. So you don't have to, hopefully, have to worry about that too much. But again, you need to practice this so that you learn what it feels like to be right next to the tag and what it feels like to be away from the tag and in your setup, like in your sleeve of your coat. You can practice all day long holding this thing and running around and finding objects with it, and then you stick it in your coat sleeve and all of a sudden you can't quite find it. You need to practice it exactly the way you're going to be dressed, and with this thing strapped to your arm if you're going to be using the vibration mode. Later I'm going to show you how to use an audio mode to find it, but let me give you a general idea of what this sounds like. Now let's go ahead and turn it on. You're going to be able to hear the buzzing. I wish you could feel it because until you feel it, it's really different, but we're going to turn it on and you can see what you can expect. Then we're going to expand into a bigger area and I'll show you how to find an object in an area. So I'm going to turn this receiver on. You get that long buzz. Now I'm going to turn on our main power breaker, I call it, and we're selected over here on the side to connect to the clip. And I'm going to press and hold this button for 1 second. So that way if you do it really quickly, nothing happens, it doesn't turn on. When I do hold it for a second, it's going to fire up. We're going to get 3 quick buzzes on the receiver. That tells you that it's on, that you hit the power button correctly, and it's now going to attempt to connect to the keychain, or to the money clip, sorry. And once it connects, you're going to start hearing this thing buzzing. It's like its heartbeat. It's going to be buzz, buzz, buzz. And the more I point at it, it's going to be faster. The more I point away, it's actually going to be slower. So I'll try to demo it, and like I said, unless you're wearing it, it's really hard to feel or to hear that difference, but let's just see what we get. I'm going to turn it on right now. 1. There's 3 quick buzzes. It's attempting to connect. Once it's connected, it's going to start buzzing, and there we go. That is connected. Now, I'm going to point this way. I'm sure you can hear how slow that is. And notice we're quite close to the device, but we're pointing in a completely different direction. Notice as I come through slowly. Now Now we have a very quick buzz and almost a completely solid buzz when we're on it. So this allows you to pinpoint the object. Now let's go over here. Now we're actually further away. Up here we're further away, even though we're pointing directly toward it. As I come down, you will hear it get faster. So if it gets on a person's body, you can definitely feel that. And I'm going to point down now. Now we're actually quite slow. So that kind of gives you a very good idea of the way this thing works. When you're pointing at it, you're going to get the much louder buzzing. As you're pointing away from it, much shorter buzzing. And then press and hold, and we're off. No need to turn this thing off. It's always enabled, and no reason to, yeah, that's it. No reason to turn this thing off, and we're ready to go. We're going to show you how to find something in a much larger space. Okay, I'm going to try to talk about how I go about finding an object. You might find a different way of doing it, but this is how I do it. I've spent a lot of time practicing this, so I kind of have a method that I use that I think is the best. And it depends on what kind of a room you're in. And again, this could be, you know, this could be your stage, this could be an auditorium, or it could be the room of a house, something like that. But this basically represents a room. And I'm usually starting at some point in the room, so I know the boundaries of which the object is in. And this boundary could be, you know, anywhere as much as almost 100 feet if it's fairly open. 100 feet in either direction, so it could be almost 200 feet across where you're going to be able to find this object. Depends on how open it is. If there's a lot of stuff inside here, it's not going to be that far, but 100 feet is a good idea. Is a good estimate. It could be that big. So let's just say, for example, the object was hidden here somewhere in the room. What I do is I walk directly into the room, and I use a method of like bisection. So I'm cutting things in half, getting it smaller and smaller. So what I would do is, in this situation, is I would walk directly in the room. I would very slowly, and I always have my arm out. I'll get into that in a minute, but I always have my arm out, and I very slowly do a radius around the room. So I would do a complete radius around this room. And all I'm really looking for, and I would do it at this point, so I would start here and I would go around like that. All I'm really looking for is it is in the right half or is in the left half. Where is the object? Is it stronger this way or is it stronger this way? I would get a definite signal that the object is on this side and it's not on this side. When I was facing this way, it would be a very slow pulse. As I turned around and faced this way, it's going to be a much stronger pulse. So I know it's over here. At that point, I start working my way here. So then I'm going to now bisect this. So then I'm going to start doing a full radius around like this. This is going to tell me which side, whether it's here or here. I'm going to get a much stronger signal on the top side than I am on the bottom side. At that point, I will start working my way to this point. And again, I will do another full radius. I know it's not over here, and I know it's not over here. I know I'm in this area at that point. Do another radius, and I want to figure out if it's either here or here, and I'll notice that it's here. And I'll start getting closer, and I'll start working this way, and I'll work my way up, and I'll eventually work my way right to the object. And I got to tell you, in a lot of situations, you'll be standing here, you're going to do a full circle, and you're going to have about a 15-degree radius like that where you're going to know that you're getting the strongest signal like that. You might be tempted to walk that direction, and you could, and you'll find it a lot of times, but I try to do a bisection so that I'm a little bit methodical, because once you get lost, if you do get lost, it gets a little bit more difficult, and you kind of have to retrace yourself, and you might find yourself retracing yourself back to the back. So that's just one way. You're going to notice also in one of the videos I do a 50-50 routine. I'm just going to turn this way, where I'm on stage, and I literally just have those groups of people on one side of me and on the other side of me, and I'm simply facing one way or the other way, and I know which group of people has it, and I sit them down, I move some people over, and then I just check both sides again, and I instantly know who has it, and I can just stand right in the middle of this thing, and I can go back and forth, and I can actually find the object. Now let's talk about one really cool thing that you can do with this. I don't recommend that you immediately go to this solution, because I think using the vibrating receiver is really good and it's a lot less setup, and it's something that I use the vibration receiver, but there are situations where I would go to this other method, and that's the audible way, and it is very good. I'm using a Kumax, in this case, earpiece. They're very inexpensive, really. They can run anywhere from $30 to $50. I've tested a number of them. I think this one's the best, and I'm shipping it with the unit, and I happen to know that it will work with the unit, so I recommend that you use this one, but it's up to you. You can try some other units out. On the back of your ProFound, you're going to find an audio jack, and you're also going to find this little junction box. I'm going to show you how to use all of this, but essentially you want to plug in this provided cable into your ProFound unit, and you're going to want to plug this into any one of the jacks here on there's 3 on here, and just plug it into one of them. It doesn't really matter which one it is. The reason that we have this is what's going to go inside of your coat. So this is going to go down your sleeve, and this is going to hang to the inside of your coat, and this will hang on your sleeve. Now, I tried to do this without this junction box, and something that you learn when you actually use your own products is that it's really kind of a nightmare. Is it possible? Yes, but it's a bit of a nightmare. You need to wear this neck loop under your shirt. So you're going to want to have this on, and then you're going to want to, have your audio jack ready to go underneath your shirt. This is actually just going to plug into any of the other clips here on your box. Now you're going to be able to hear the location of your tag. And the reason you want this is because you want to be able to unplug this and then take your jacket off. This will be a part of your jacket. Jacket can go off, it can go sit somewhere. If you have to have this thing taped into the sleeve of your jacket and then this thing connected to it, and you have a shirt on, you can't, unbutton your shirt and get this thing off and then leave this whole piece connected in here with your jacket. You don't want to be messing with that. So that's the main reason for having this junction box. So I definitely recommend that you use it so that you can have your jacket ready to go when you go to your show, and you can put it on and just clip in and you're good to go. Now I'm going to clip into here. I have used this before. It does work quite well. The battery turns on and off by simply closing the door on it. So it will come with some instructions. You want to be careful what direction you put that battery in, so pay attention to what direction you put the battery in, so your plus and minus. You close the door, you've got a couple hours once this door is shut because it's now on. This unit's very small. I've tested a number of these, even the very expensive Phonak ones, and you can't actually fit that very well in your ear. This one you can shove into your ear. If I was going to do it, I would put it into my left ear and I have the person on my right side, just in case, but you really cannot see this from stage or even in a parlor situation. It goes in far enough. In fact, I've pushed it in so far that I had a difficult time actually getting it out. So what you can do is you can use a magnet, and I'll try to provide something, kind of a rod magnet, and you can stick that into your ear and it will stick to the back of this thing and you can pull it out. Because it can go into it has a little pull tab, but it can go so far in your ear that when you go in and try to get it out, you're just pushing it in further. And it gets a little scary when this thing starts to get down pretty far in your ear. So I get it in there pretty deep, and then I use the magnet to get it out, to actually clip onto it and pull it out. Just don't panic if it gets down in there. You might need to get someone to help you out and get some tweezers and pull it out. So make sure you have somebody at home willing to dig this out of your ear if it gets stuck, but use the magnet, like I said, or have it ready like this. You're going to place this thing into your ear. You're going to turn the unit on like you normally would. Now, I will tell you that you can use both of these simultaneously. You can actually use the thumper, or you can use the audible at the same time, or you can have this thing on your arm and you can flip this thing on if you get into some sort of trouble or something like that. So let's say you go on stage, I don't know, maybe the battery here dies or something. You can turn the receiver on and it's going to instantly start working. So both can be used simultaneously. And I will tell you that when you use this, I think that you will be quite pleased with the way that it works. When you turn it on, you'll hear it boot. You'll hear it boot up, and you'll start hearing beep, 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 beep. And as you get closer and pointing at something, you're totally going to hear when you're at something. Now, if you want to try to find something from a very, very far distance, I would go with the audio. The audio I find to be much better at finding things. Let's say you're in the middle of a field and you want to find something that's maybe 150 feet away and you want to know what direction it's in. I would go with the audio more than I would go with the thumper. Requires more setup, of course, and more gear to wear, but it is more sensitive because you can hear many more notes than you can actually feel buzzes. So the sensitivity level is much better. So when you're very far away from it, you can detect very, very subtle differences, and you'll find the correct direction from a long distance. So that's what I would use this for. I definitely recommend you trying this at least, but I wouldn't become super reliant on this method. I would learn both methods. On your earpiece, simply installing the battery turns the unit on, so you want to leave this open like that while it's stored inside of your case. And then when you're ready to use it, you make sure you have this in the correct direction. Look at the instructions. You'll see a slight bevel on this piece of plastic. It's very slightly beveled to where this button side points to, and then this is the outer casing there, which goes toward the fatter side. And again, that's the button side in there. And then by simply closing this door, you are turning the unit on. You're going to get several hours of use out of it, maybe 3-4 hours. And then you simply use your fingernail and you pull that up, and now this unit is turned off. So that's how you want to store this inside of the foam. You close that to turn it on again, and then you open this to turn it off. And look at the instructions so you can figure out which size that battery is. Now I want to show you what this sounds like when you have the earpiece in, and I have this connected to my Bose sound system, so you're definitely going to be able to hear it. I also have my receiver on. You can do both simultaneously. Receiver's on, and I'm going to power on the unit right now. You're going to hear a long beep, and then you're going to hear a doo-doo-doo. That's it turning on, and then we're going to wait for it to connect, at which point you're going to hear a bunch of beeps. I've got a tag sitting at about 1:30 or 2 o'clock, about 15 feet from me. Here we go. That was the 3 buzzes. That's the turn on sequence. Now it's attempting to connect, so we'll wait. There it is. I'm pointing this direction right now, so we're going to go around. Very clear signal. It's pretty much I'm pointing dead on with it. You can hear it going, fading away. Pretty much know exactly where it's at. Like I say, it's dead on, but within, say, 15 degrees, I know exactly where that tag's at. That's a good 15 feet from me right now, maybe even 20. Now you're going to hear it really calm down quite a bit. That's actually like a relaxation algorithm, and what that allows you to do is get that differential that you need to find the tag. Now when I'm right next to the tag, you're going to get a very similar kind of response. So that when the tag's right here, you're going to be able to pinpoint to it, but you also need to be able to hear that difference when you're 20 feet away. So there's a lot of algorithms going on that's allowing that averaging and relaxation so that you can actually pinpoint it when you're right on top of it. So it's quite sophisticated. I'm going to disconnect this, and I'm going to show you that the 3 buzzes, when we turn this guy on, we get our 3 buzzes in the receiver, and then it's attempting to connect. And once it connects, it's going to start buzzing. There it goes. And then I'm going to point toward it now. There's the buzzing. It's significantly faster. Hopefully you can hear that. It's probably not picking up really well, but if you feel this significantly faster when you're pointing at it and away from it, it's much slower. Much faster. And much slower. So that is the turn on feature. Now we're going to show you what happens when this turns off. Now I want to point out something that's extremely important that you have to know about before you perform this. The technology for this is very sophisticated, and when you get really close to the tag, and then if you move far away, so if you've just about found it and you move far away from it, it can think that you found it and it can shut off. Now, if it does shut off, it's going to attempt to reboot and reconnect to it. And that's what you need to know about, because this has happened to me in performance. If that does happen, you just need to not panic, and you just need to wait until it reboots and it reconnects, because it will do that. Also, if the tag gets hidden for some reason really far away, you can push the button to get this fired up and start connecting. If it doesn't connect, I walk toward the middle of the room to cut all my distances basically in half. And this thing will constantly interrogate that tag, attempting to connect to it. And the moment it does, you'll start to hear that. So I'm going to demonstrate what that sounds like when it gets disconnected. And you need to be aware of that, and it'll do it on the same thing with the receiver. Remember, when the receiver turns on, when it's trying to connect, you get 3 really quick buzzes. So you've got to be paying attention to that. If you get no buzzes for about 4 or 5 seconds, and then you get 3 quick buzzes, that means that it's reinterrogating, trying to find the tag. Don't panic, it's going to pick it up. Maybe start cutting your distances down as to where you think it is, but don't panic about it. But let's listen to what that sounds like when that happens. All right, I'm going to go ahead and turn this on. You already know when this comes on that you hear that startup sequence, so let's hear it now. There it is. Attempting to connect right now. When it finds it, we'll start getting buzzes. There it is. Now my tag is right in front of me, so I'm going to point to it. It's right in front of me. Now, like I said, if I found it and I walked away, it may actually shut itself off. So we're going to do that now. It's going to do something like that, and it's going to be done. Now, it's going to attempt to reconnect to that tag. That's the reconnection sequence again, and it's going to happen, about every less than 10 seconds. But if it can't find it, it's going to attempt to reconnect again. So at this point, you are not connected, and you're basically walking around trying to get close enough to it so that it can connect. Once you get close enough to it, it will actually reconnect, and you are going to start getting that buzzing again. If you're using this receiver, you get those 3 quick buzzes, that bump, 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 and that tells you that it's attempting to connect. Bump, 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 every about 7-8 seconds. Bump, 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 and then it's trying. So it can get out of range for some reason. It can be hidden really far away where it's not connecting for some reason. Or if you get really close to it and then you go far away and it shuts itself off, it's going to keep reinterrogating. So what you need to know is this thing will not stop until you physically either push the button and turn it off, or you turn off the main power breaker. So you don't have to worry about trying to return it back on. Once you've turned it on, it is not going to stop. And that's the way I wanted it designed for performance, but it's not going to stop interrogating that tag until you physically turn this thing off. So just beware during performance, if it shuts off or disconnects, that you just be patient. Use some patter. You're doing muscle ring at that point. Just add to your show at that point. Do some realistic looking muscle reading and wait for it to reconnect. Let me show you how I put this in my sleeve of my jacket. The push button I always want facing down so that I can feel it and turn it on from underneath my sleeve. And now inside the sleeve of my jacket, the buttons here are the part that hang down. When my arm is out, I want it hanging down right here, right below my hand, right in this area. So I put my jacket on and make sure that I know roughly where that is, and in my case it's right where my buttons are. Probably be the same for you. I actually went as far as to unstitch this a little bit. I don't think you have to do this because these are black and you're not going to be able to see them anyways, but I actually did a little bit of unstitching there, and I take this with some double-sided tape on the front of it, and I place it into my coat pocket, and I tape it right the front of it right inside there, and I let that hang. Then when I put my hand through there, it hangs nice and low, and my sleeves are fairly well fit. I mean, they're not baggy or anything like that, and you're going to be okay. You just need an inch and a half of distance between your body and the actual unit itself. And from here, I can actually feel the switches, so you're going to want to remember that this inside switch is your main power breaker switch, and it's the one that's next to the button switch. And you're going to want to remember that putting it to the inside turns on the power breaker and it's ready to go. And then when you press that button for a second and release, it turns on. So that is my setup for the sleeve. Now, if I'm going to use the audio option, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this audio cable and I'm going to run it down the inside of my sleeve of my jacket, and it will then, you'll see why the junction box is so important, because you're going to want to have this connected. So you're going to plug this guy in, and it's going to be a nice connection there. Run this guy down, then you're going to want to tape it. Now, if you do go underneath your lining, of course, you're going to have to make another hole in your lining to get the audio cable through it, or I actually made a hole up here toward the armpit, and I ran the audio cable from that point all the way down. So imagine this being hanging in your sleeve. This audio cable is going to come up to this point underneath the armpit, and it's going to come down to here. Now, down below your pockets area or on your hip is where you're going to plug this guy into the junction box, which I don't actually have up here right now, but that's going to plug into the junction box, and it's going to be located right here. And that way your inductive loop, when you put it on, you're going to be able to plug this guy, the end of your inductive loop is going to plug into one of the other connections on the junction box and allow these two pieces to be connected together. So that's what that's for. If you want to connect this right directly to this, it's long enough you can do it, but you can't get your jacket off. When this is around your neck and it's under your shirt and going down and around and down your sleeve, you can't take your jacket off. So I don't recommend doing it that way, but if you figure out a method for doing it, let us know. But I use the junction box so that I can disconnect it, and then I can take my coat off and I can leave my coat hanging somewhere before the show. So that's how we do the setup in the sleeve. Now, let's talk about what you can do with this thing, and let's also talk about what you should not attempt to do with this thing. I've done an enormous amount of testing, so I have a pretty good idea. So first off, let's talk about what you can't do with it. You can't have this tag hidden in a metal box, because it's not going to be able to connect with RF. It's not going to be able to find it. So this can't be in a metal box or an RF blocking box. Even you have to think about seating and stuff like that, or tables. If your idea is I want them to stick it under a table, or I want them to hide it in a theater seat that's all metal, or somebody in the middle of the theater is going to have it, you're going to be required to come up to these people and get close to them and try to find it. If they're sitting in a theater, it's going to be difficult to actually do that, right? If you just hand this in and say, I'm going to throw this in the audience and I'm going to attempt to find it, there's a really good chance that you're not going to be able to. What if they stick it in their back pocket and they sit on it? Are you really going to be able to find it? Another point is, it's not good. You can't take this and have it in people's hands like this and have them 10 feet, 20, 30 feet away from you and have 50 or 100 people like this, because the hands physically block RF. It's very difficult to find things inside of people's hands when you're using RF like this at a range, when you want to get range. So having it in hands and having it like this is not going to work. So if they sit on it, if their body is blocking it and they're sitting in a chair, you're not going to be able to find it. If they stick it in their boot or their shoe or something like that, you're not going to be able to find this thing. What I find the best way to do this is to stand up a group of people, and they can be like the people that are, this is out of the Banner checkbook, but people in the aisles of an auditorium are totally fine because they're standing up and they're in the aisles. You're going to be able to get between them and maybe move people around. You can have people standing up at tables if you want to. That's okay. Or you can select a group and make a ring, and you'll see in one of my videos that's exactly how I do it. The next thing is I have this handed out. I say put it in your front pocket. Whoever gets it, just put it in your front pocket. You know what, I used to worry that people would think I could see it, but you can't see this thing in their front pocket. You get 50 people standing up, you can't see it. But if it's in the front pocket, it does some great things for you, because you're going to try to find out. It's going to be very easy to find this way where it is. You're not going to have to worry about this direction. Is it in their hat, or is it in somewhere else in their body, or is it in their shoe? You're not going to have to worry about this direction moving up and down. You're knowing it's going to be in a front pocket. It makes it much, much simpler for you to find it if you constrain the height at which it is. If you want to take it, you're in a big, like say you're in a wedding environment or a banquet environment, and say, you know what, take it, go stick it on somebody's table and put a napkin over the top of it. It's perfect. you know the height of it, you know all the tables in the room, you can simply walk through the middle of the aisles pointing at the different tables, and you're very quickly going to be able to figure out what table it's at. And once you get to that table, you can move some people out of the way and you can actually find out what napkin it's under because you'll be able to pinpoint it on that table. That's something that's very easy to do. So I would try to isolate its height as to where it's going to be. Now, if you have an empty room and you're going to have somebody hide it in a room, that's fine. They can hide it at different heights, and you're going to be able to figure out where it is this direction, and then you're going to find it in the, I call this the Z direction, you know, X and Y. You're going to be able to figure out left and right where it is, and you're going to be able to find exactly the height of the object and find it on which shelf it is, or maybe it's going to be behind something, or maybe under a cushion I found it. So you can do that, but I really recommend that if it's just in a room somewhere where it's going to be hidden, not if it's going to be on somebody's body. It's a little bit harder. If you've got it in a pocket and you want to get fairly close to them, you can actually figure out if it's in the right pocket or if it's in their left pocket. Honestly, this kind of thing, though, in my opinion, I've performed it, it doesn't add very much. If you find the person that has it and you say, empty your pockets, and they pull this thing out of their pocket, the audience reacts. Whether or not you say, empty your left pocket, and let's say you miss it because of that, well, then you just blew the whole thing. You found the person, but you missed the pocket. I don't think it's that important to figure that kind of a thing out, but it's up to you how you want to structure your routine. But my recommendation is just finding the person is good enough. Let's talk about using ProFound in a sleeveless environment, which may be something that you want to do. The first thing is you're going to need to be wireless, otherwise you'd have a cable coming out of the unit itself, which you wouldn't want to have. So you're going to want to use the wireless to the thumper. And the second thing is you want to hide this into something. Now, when you're using ProFound, you do want to hold it really from the back of the unit, which is where the switches are. You don't want to have your hands over the front of this antenna, otherwise you're not going to get a good signal. That's why we tell you, do not strap this to your arm. Don't try to strap it to your forearm up here and try to point or something like that. It's not going to work for you. And actually you get really good range and really good detection just simply by holding it and moving it about. So you want to be holding it toward the bottom, not like this. So a couple things that you can do. It does actually fit into a card box. So you could have something that you're possibly holding cards for. You could pop it in there with a little bit of padding in there. You could feel the switch through the box, and you could actually turn it on with just the push button. I know a lot of you don't like cards, so it's just an idea, something that you might want to do. But something that I've used is the Parapad. Now, what's interesting about this is I get that impression first because I want the name and it goes in the money clip. I've actually done that where I've gotten the impression and I've turned around to look at it, and then I literally switch out the Parapad and I bring into play one that's been gaffed. So basically all the pages are glued together, there's a thing cut out of the middle of it, and the unit's sitting right inside there. I would get the unit as close to the tip of this as you can because I'm going to be holding the pad like this. And also you don't want a bunch of metal, like a Mead notebook that's got metal rings up here. That's going to cause interference, so you don't want metal up there. But you can feel the button through the top, so it's easy to turn this on and off when you're ready to go. You can also hide it, of course, under a couple of sheets of paper. So a notepad, and this is something that I had in my hand. I got an impression, I had them write down a name, I had this in my hand. And again, while you're using this, you're simply going to be, I would be doing something like this. I'd be casually kind of holding this down to the side. I'll hold it up so that you can see it. And as I'm scanning, I know where this is pointing. It doesn't really matter where this hand is at this point, of course, it's sleeveless, but it's where this guy is pointing, and I can actually then determine where to go. So a third idea, which is cool, is to use this inside of a wallet. This happens to be one of the Paralabs wallets, and because the device is very thin, you can simply slip it in there. It'll go through like leather and plastic and paper and stuff, not a problem. So you can close this, and again, you can feel that on-off switch right through this. So you can just squeeze this and turn it on, squeeze it and turn it off. It may be that you take money out of your wallet that goes in your money clip, and you have this wallet in your hand as you go around and you try to find your money. So this is another option. I'm sure you'll come up with a million other ways to do this, but here are 3 different options and how you should set it up. And remember, when you're doing it, you're going to want to be just pointing to wherever the object is with whatever you have in your hand. So hopefully it's something natural that you would have. It could be a larger clipboard if you wanted to. Maybe you're writing notes down or something, but up to you. But you can perform it sleeveless by hiding this into something that you're holding on to. Now let me talk to you a little bit about routining and how I set this thing up with people. Essentially, I'm using the notion of muscle reading, and you may probably be doing the same thing. Now, of course, I need to be pointing with one hand, so I use something. I got this out of the Banachek book on muscle reading, and essentially, I say to the spectator, I'm going to be making contact with you. I'm going to be pointing my hand in a particular direction. I want you to think in your mind. Don't move me physically in any direction, but I want you to think in your mind left or right. When I'm on the object, I want you to think in your mind stop. And those are my directions. Don't physically move me. I want the audience to know that they're not cueing me, they're not physically moving me. I want the audience to know that. So I say, don't physically move me, but just tell me mentally left or right as I put my hand out. This gives me all the justification that I need to have my hand out during the entire sequence. And that's exactly how I do it. Now, I have the vibrator on this arm, not on this arm, because if I have them grab my arm as I'm doing muscle reading, they could feel that buzzing. So I put it over here. If you're going to have them grab this arm, then switch that. But what I've been doing in my shows, honestly, is, and this is another technique for muscle reading, is I have them hold my shoulder. So I have them put their hands on my shoulder and stand behind me. This arm is down to the side so I can feel the buzzing. This hand is out, and they're simply walking behind me. You could also use a handkerchief or a piece of rope where you held onto it with one hand and they were behind you and they held the rope and they just simply followed you. So that's another method that you could actually use. Now I want to share with you my favorite routine using ProFound. I think it's interesting to find your money. It's been done for a long time. I think the first person to ever do it was a guy named Polgar a long time ago in using muscle reading. But I never really wanted to do that with it. I wanted to do something more with it. And let me explain. It's kind of under the premise of removing your money and saying, money's important in life, but there's nothing more important than your family and your friends. If I could have somebody join me on stage and you bring somebody up and you hand them a pad of paper with a pen where they can write down the name of that family member, possibly a friend. I have a couple of other pieces of information that I ask for that nobody else knows, like maybe their age, favorite color, something like that, favorite number. I have that written on the paper as well, and I'll explain that in a minute. I say, tear that off when you're done, good. Do me a favor, clip it inside my money clip. Take that, fold it, put it inside of my money clip. Somebody else comes up and blindfolds me. This gets hidden. Now, how I hide it, it could be, like I said, if it's in a room, that's fine. If it's a bunch of people that are standing up, that's fine. It gets hidden in their front pocket. I say, please go into the audience, hand this to somebody, have them place it inside of their front pocket while my eyes are, while I'm blindfolded. And they do that. Now, this does a couple of great things for me because I turn around, I get my peak. However I'm using the peak device. So now I have a name, I have maybe a favorite number, a favorite color, and it would hopefully be that person's favorite number, favorite color. And then I have this thing sitting out in the audience somewhere that I'm going to go find. Now, one of the challenges is making this finding the object interesting while you're doing it. And one way to do that is to do revelations during it. And I always thought, if you're really reading somebody's mind through contact mind reading in an attempt to find an object, why not read their mind to come up with the name of this person that they're thinking of? So during the instructions, think left and right, and the entire time, think of your family member that you wrote down. Think of your friend that you wrote down, and grab my shoulder, and they do. And I said, "Here we go. We're walking, and I've got a mic, and it's usually I have my mic here, and I'll have the hand held for them, or have them even hold it, and we'll be walking, and I'll ask them a question." I said, now, do you have a favorite number? I'm trying to figure out which direction to go. Do you have a favorite number? And they say yes, because they just wrote it down. I said, is your favorite number 7? And they say yes. So now you've got a hit. You say, great, I think I know which way to go. And then you make your turn and you go, you're starting to do your bisecting. You're figuring out where this object is. And then you can discuss their favorite color. And then you can discuss this person you wrote down, it was male, female. I'm pretty sure it was a female, wasn't it? Yes. So you're actually doing this reading as if you're reading their mind as you're finding the object. You finally get to the person and you say, do me a favor, please, and empty your pockets. And at that point, hopefully this comes out, everybody sees it, you can hold it up into the air, and you get a nice round of applause. And it's at that point that I then reveal the name of the person that they're thinking of. This is a couple of great things from you. It's a great kicker. Obviously, it's completely impossible that you'd know the name. Additionally, if you ever get in trouble during this and you can't find the object, well, you have a name reveal that you can do. You say, I think it's over here. No, I missed it. Oh, that tells me what I was thinking was wrong. I think I do know the name now because I was getting 2 different names. So if that's wrong, the name must be Janice or whatever the name is that was written down. So you still have this great kicker ending that you can, it's an out basically. It's your finale. You have it because of the impression pad. Now, if you don't get the impression, you can still find the object. You don't necessarily have to come up with it. You can reveal it at the end if you want to, but it's pretty unlikely that you're not going to get the impression. It's also pretty unlikely that you're not going to be able to find the object. So I like using that as my fundamental routine. And let me give you another pointer when I do it, and you'll see it in the video. I get people to stand up, and I, like in a semicircle, and I scan the entire circle, and I know basically it's coming from one direction. And in the video that I did, it's coming from somewhere around 10, 11 o'clock. And I know that right off the bat. And I come over to some people, and I don't say, you don't have it necessarily. I just say, have a seat, have a seat, have a seat. And now I get people sitting down. It's a big motion. They're going away. The audience doesn't know if I found it, or if I was correct, or if I wasn't correct. They're not giving a lot of information as they're leaving and sitting down. So there's this tension builds as I sit people down. No, have a seat, have a seat, have a seat. Some people go, oh, it's obvious they didn't have it. Other people don't do that. So they don't know if I've messed up yet. So you're getting, narrow and narrow and narrow, and you're down to 3 people. And then I'll even create some distance if I need to, and you'll see that in the video, to actually find who has it. You don't have it, have a seat. And they don't say anything. I'm down to 2. And I'll usually say, just empty your pockets into my hand, and boom, I have it. And then I reveal the name. But it's a very visual way to do this, and the strength of that reveal is so much better than just walking over, finding it with somebody and asking them to empty their pockets. The strength of that reveal of setting people down and building that tension up, it plays so much stronger than just that finding it and having them reveal. Because you could even have them reveal it at that moment. You could even get to go to one person and have everybody sit down instantly, and I don't think it's as good as just stepping through it and the audience seeing that process of you finding the object. So that's the way I do it. It's the way that I would recommend that you do it.
Never done before. That was an experience with body language and a group think and working with groups of people. This is working with an individual person. There was a mentalist over 100 years ago from Poland. His name was Polgar, and he actually did a routine where he could actually find objects in a room that were hidden. And it's something that I've always been working on. It's been about 3 years now I've worked on it. Never performed it live, at least not with a group like this. I'm going to give it a try tonight. No idea what's going to happen, but I need somebody to come up and help me out, if they would, that anybody at all would like to go up and help me out to do this. There's a volunteer. Should be interesting. You, sir? Come on. There. All right. You'll be hiding all your stuff. Do me a favor. It's Nate. Is that right? That's it. Okay. What I'm going to do, we're going to use $200 because it's something that's important to me, but we're going to have something that's important to you as well. So I'm going to have you write down somebody's name and some information. Okay, so I want you to write that down, and then if you would do me a favor and tear that off. What I'm going to need to do, though, is I need to have a bunch of people here in the middle, probably gentleman with pockets or lady with pockets. Would you stand up? I want you to form like a circle right here in the middle. Just stand right here on the edge. If you don't mind, if I get some people right in here. Stand up. Okay, go ahead. Yeah, sure, the first name. First name. Yeah, if you have this stuff down or no? Yeah, go ahead. And then, first name, yeah, tear that off. And then can we get another couple of you? So do me a favor, fold that up, add it to the $200 there. I'll take that back. I'll take the next one. Yeah? Oh, that's okay. Got it. All right. Do you have that? Is it all folded up? Do you have it inside of the money clip? Okay, perfect. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. I don't really want anybody here to know who has it. Okay. Except for you. You need to know where it is. Because I'm going to be relying on you. You need to know where it is. So, whoever he gives it to, you can come over here and maybe fake give it to a few people. If he hands you something maybe he might not give it to you, take your hand, stick it in your pocket. And I want you to have it, and I want you to place it in your front pocket. Whoever he gives it to, actually gives it to, but if he gives it to you and takes it away, just kind of think, because I don't want anybody here to know who has it. You don't have any pockets, maybe you put it aside or something like that. Okay, all right. She's got, I believe.
I'm handing it to one person.
You're actually going to give it to one person, but kind of fake it out, like give it to a number of people. Okay, and then go ahead and do it now. And would you like me to do this? Would you just be a blindfold for me? Right over here. Come on over here. Perfect. Hands like that. Make sure my eyes are closed. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead and do your thing and let me know when you're done.
Okay, I'm done. I placed my treasure.
You got it?
Yeah.
You're good. Thanks for doing that. I've been wanting to start some music here. Here we go. Wait a second. Let's go past that. Let's go past that. And we're going to go past that. And we're going to start there. Do me a favor.
Yeah.
Sit behind me. Put your hand right here on my shoulder. So this has to do with contact. So hands on the shoulder. We're going to walk toward the center. And here's the thing. As I'm walking, I'm going to be going like this. And I want you to mentally think to yourself, let's say you had it over here, I want you to think to yourself left, left, left. Or if I'm over here and it's over here, I want you to think right, right, right. When I want you to think stop. Okay? When I'm pointing at the person that you gave it to, I want you to think stop. Okay? So I want you to think left, I want you to think right, I want you to think stop when I'm on. Okay? And try to clear your mind and not think of anything else other than that. Start going. Was his favorite number, was it the number 13? So what's the number 13? Okay, you can sit down. You can sit down. You can sit down. Three of you can sit down. You know what it is? Is it red?
Black.
You can sit down. Josie? Josie is her name?